Hi, welcome to this session at the Spring ConnectCMO Summit with Quartz Networks. My name is Stephen Bouchon. I'm a former executive at the Walt Disney Company, where I used to lead marketing operations. Marketing operations consisted of all of content creation for our marketing campaigns. It included workflows, included media management, as well as finance and human development. So today what I'd like to do is we're going to talk about something a little different. We're going to talk about emotional intelligence. We're going to talk about how to be better leaders. And really, we're going to focus today in this recorded version, we're going to focus on self, our self-awareness and our self-management, and how that can help us be better leaders. And to start, I'm going to start with a quote that I really like. It comes from Michel Proust, from one of his works, and it's been translated a few different ways, but it's that the real voyage of discovery lies not in seeking new landscapes, but in seeking through new eyes. So what I'd like to do today is to invite you to grab on a new set of eyes and think about things differently, get a new perspective, refresh your perspective as we go through the concepts we're going to talk about today. Now, to begin, what I'd like you to do is to think about one or two leaders that you admire or you would really love to work for. Just think about them, take a minute or two, and in a minute or two, I'd like you to write down what are the qualities and characteristics that you admire, thinking about what do they do, how do they behave, and how do they make you feel? And if you can, just pause this or take the time, just write down your answers to those questions. Okay, so there's a really good chance that the things about them that you admire stems from their mastery or the way they show their emotional intelligence. Now, emotional intelligence, there's been a lot of research around it, and I'm sure the executives here, you've all had some sort of training, you've been familiarized with emotional intelligence. So I'm just going to ground us all in some of the research before we get on to exploring it a little bit more. So, emotional intelligence really broken up into, it's been identified 4 major pillars. One is about self-awareness. One is about self-management. One is about relationship management. And the other one, and I have it last, social awareness, that we'll explore a little bit further, with empathy. Okay, so I'm sure that you've heard a lot of that. So I'm not going to dwell on that, but we're going to dive into a couple of the pillars. Okay, so as you think about emotional intelligence, as we start going into the practice and go into the pillars, think about, I'm aware of how I'm feeling. I know what my strengths are and how I am perceived by other people. That's a lot of the self-awareness part. I respond to situations and interactions as I want to respond. I'm in control and have a positive outlook to move things forward. That's the self-management. I'm aware of the emotions of others, the state of mind they are in. I'm curious about how they are feeling and how things get done within my organization. That's more of the social awareness, empathy. And then I act and behave to influence and manage conflict for desired outcomes. I invest time in coaching and mentoring for myself and for others. And I strive to inspire rather than direct. That's that relationship management. So if nothing else, we think about these and think about being able to answer these questions or have backup for these statements, that's about your own emotional intelligence. So, like I said, what we will do, we're going to start with ourselves. It's a great place to start. And it's truly the only entity that we can truly influence is ourselves. We can control us. So we're going to start with self-awareness. So self-awareness occurs when people know what they're feeling, that you know how you're feeling in a moment, how you respond in a given situation, how you use that to guide some decision making, that you have a realistic assessment of your abilities and a grounded sense of self-confidence in what you're able to do. Okay, so that's really self-awareness. There are a lot of ways to learn and become more self-aware and ways to increase that self-awareness. So the first is ask for feedback. When you're talking with people that you trust, that you think will be frank with you, ask for feedback. and listen and take the feedback as a gift. You may not like what you hear, but take it as a gift because that's how you're being perceived. In the day, if you're on Zoom calls or you're in meetings or something like that, take how are you feeling breaks? What are your feeling breaks? Okay. After you have an interaction with somebody, take a pause and say, how do I feel about that? And then just write that down and keep making mental notes. And so you're going to start building up a strength of understanding and being aware of yourself and where you are. Think about what triggers you positively and negatively. What happens in your body when you get triggered? Okay. Do you feel like a lot of us, you feel this sort of this adrenaline going on, your heart starts to beat, your eyes start to narrow, your focus starts to narrow, you get a little tense. It's completely normal. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Could be an amygdala hijack. Some people like journaling. I was never big on it myself, but some people, at the end of the day, and some of the clients I work with now, what they'll do is each day they'll talk about, how did the day go? What did they respond to the way they wanted to? What are some of the things that they want to focus on? What were some of the things that triggered them, either both positively and negatively? Meditation is something that I do practice. It's about mindful meditation. It's about breathing exercises. It's about being present in the moment, really listening to yourself and focusing on what's happening at the moment, controlling those wayward thoughts, those meandering thoughts that happen. There are also things that you can do that can help you understand more your strengths, how you perceive and things like that. Gallup Strengths is one assessment. 360 reviews, you may have them in your company or have done them. Or Positive Intelligence. It's a program. In fact, I'll talk a little bit about that later. That will help you be aware and then manage your response. Self-management is the second pillar that I wanted to quickly talk about. Self-management is your ability to control or redirect disruptive impulses. So, for example, something happens, rather than reacting, you're able to think and respond in the way you want to. And essentially, I just have right here, it's about thinking before you act. Okay? Now, how do you increase self-management? Well, set goals on how you want to show up. That's one of the things we don't really think about. We think about what we want to do, but how do we want to be? How do we want to be with people? How do we want to be in situations? How do we want to come across? Write that down. Make it expressed intent. Slow down. Our society, we seem to encourage people to go faster and faster, to do more and more and more, want to take on more. Slow down. Take an inventory. Really do a check. What I do is I start with my feet. I get my feet really grounded. I count my little toes, and then feel where are my legs? How's my gut feeling? What's in my heart? What's in my head? So just take a pause, especially after an interaction. Okay, take a pause and just go through your body. See where you are. Breathe. We have the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. The parasympathetic nervous system is something that helps calm us down, activates sort of positive flow in our body, and it helps to control, our amygdala and some of the brain workings when we start getting triggered. So it allows us to get access to some of those higher brain functions for creativity, more strategy, higher thought processes. Okay. And then one thing I like to do is when I work with people and I talk with folks is focus on what's your purpose, what are your values, and what's the vision you hold for yourself. And then keep those in mind, and especially if you've been triggered or something happened, somebody bumped into you or you read an email that sets you off. Think about those things before you respond. So what we're going to do is we're going to shift gears, and this is very accelerated compared to what we'll do in the full length session when we're in person. We're going to talk about mental fitness and mental resilience. Basically, it's exercising your brain so that you are more in control when crazy things happen. So just some examples of things. There are a lot of us. We work in marketing. So have you ever, or maybe you were behind this, but have you worked on a creative pitch and submitted it, And you stayed up all night to get it done and you submit it, and then your boss gets back to you 2 days later with no feedback, and then all of a sudden you have feedback and it's got to be done for the next day or for later that afternoon. So all of a sudden, because of that timing, you have to rush. Or you get an email from your finance executive and they're telling you need to cut your budgets by 15%. Oh, and HR has once again said that, we're not going to go back to the office at the beginning of February. Now we're looking at going back in the beginning of March. Okay, change. What about you're preparing to give or receive an annual review? Okay, how do you feel about it? What's going on in your mind? Okay, or this one that I love because having worked from home for the last two years, a lot of times this happens. Long day or a week or a month or the entire COVID. And your child or somebody wants your attention really badly, but you're trying to get something done. And the internet's not working. And you got to get dinner ready and crap, the milk's expired and you didn't feed the cat again. So just little things that happen in our day-to-day life. What does it feel like when those happen to us? Okay, how do we respond? So I'm going to talk really quickly about what's called an amygdala hijack. Okay, in a low emotion, calm, normal setting, you can see here on the left, we can use the higher cortex, you see the brainstem and the amygdala. We can tap into that higher cortex, which are those higher thinking functions where we can be creative, we can think strategically, we can be conceptual. Okay, now, when there's high emotion that's coming on, all of a sudden, our amygdala takes over. There's hormone secretion, there are electric impulses that link our gut, our kidneys, our brainstem, up to our amygdala. And what happens? It's a safety mechanism to help us. It focuses our vision. It sends blood away from our brain to our muscles. In essence, it's preparing us for a fight, flight, or freeze response. Okay. Now, this is meant to be an acute response, meaning it happens and then it dissipates. But what's happening because of the stresses we're living, so often, on a continual basis these days, it becomes more of a chronic situation. And with being in that chronic situation, cortisone is through our body. And then what happens is it ends up increasing the amygdala and shrinking the prefrontal cortex. So the idea is, how do you get out of an amygdala hijack quickly so you can get back to normal, creative, productive thinking? So when I talk about mental fitness and resilience, it's really about our capacity to respond to life's challenges with a positive rather than a negative mindset. The impact of that is increased peak performance, greater peace of mind and wellness, and healthier relationships. Now, who doesn't want that? So the way this came about, there's been a lot of research in the area of positive psychology. And Shirzad Chamine, what he did is he brought together four paths of science, if you will: positive psychology, neuroscience, cognitive psychology, and performance science. Brought them together, integrated them, and created what he calls positive intelligence. It's a New York Times bestseller. It's a book that he has. I encourage you to read it. And then it allows us to really think differently about what's happening and how we move from that triggered point, the amygdala hijack, into a forward motion, positive intelligence approach. So, how long do you hold on to negative thoughts? Okay, negative thoughts are like putting your hand on the hot burner. How long should you hold on to them? How long should you keep your hand on that hot burner? So, negative thoughts and emotions are helpful, but really only as an alert signal. It's like, oh, something bad happened. Okay, I'm ready. Staying in the negative emotion, it hurts our ability to see clearly and respond. I talked about the amygdala hijack earlier. Okay. We like to think that our negative emotions, we give them a name, we call them our saboteurs. And saboteurs are just that. They're the things that sabotage our ability to advance, to be productive, to achieve what we want to achieve. So in Shirzad's work on positive intelligence, what it is used factor analysis to look at what are the different things that are happening, different negative emotions that are happening inside of people, and how they keep us from achieving what we want to achieve. So through the work that he did and the statistical analysis, there were 10 that were identified. One is the judge. The judge is the one we all have. You know, it's that voice inside of us that's judging us, or it's judging other people, or it's judging the circumstances. Basically, it's saying that, you know, we don't have control over something and we're not good enough to get something done, or that person did this, or, oh, I'm just, you know, I can't do anything because of the situation. So the judge we all have, okay? And then the judge, who's the main beast of the saboteurs, has accomplice saboteurs. And we have all of these in different mixes. Usually, one or two come to the top and the others are a little bit lower. For example, I have a hyperachiever saboteur and I have a hyper rationale saboteur. The hyperachiever actually encourages me to take on more and more and more, get more done and try to get more done. And it just feeds itself. Now, one might say, well, that's really positive, Steve. You know, it allows you to get a lot more done. Yes, to a point, but, okay? There are times when, because I'm always in because when I'm in hyperachiever, I'm ignoring a bunch of other things. And if the people around me aren't in hyperachiever and we're not aligned, you can imagine what having somebody like that on your team or in your household, what that could be like. And you can see some of the other accomplice saboteurs. And I would encourage you, there's a website down there, positiveintelligence.com. I would encourage you, go there. You can take the assessment, the saboteur assessment, just for yourself to see which of the saboteurs tend to be a little more present and readily active in your life. Now, on the opposite side of the saboteur is the sage. The sage is that deeper, wiser you, that thinking that you can tap into when you're calm, when you're in flow, when things are going great, okay? When you're really on top of it, okay? The sage perspective, so what I'm going to use there, the sage perspective is thinking every time there's a challenge, there's a gift hidden there, okay? At the very beginning, we were thinking, let's take COVID, for example. What are some of the gifts? Think about it for a second, hit pause if you'd like. Think about what are some of the gifts of working from home and what we had to do in order to get all of our teams productive and shift, and the way we've had to transform our companies. What are some of the gifts that are hidden in that for us? Okay. Now, where the saboteurs tend to sort of keep us from moving forward, the sage has these powers, these things we can use, these ways we can use to actually move from stop position to moving forward. Having empathy for ourselves and for others, understand where they're coming from and see if that opens up some ideas. Exploring options, exploring curiosities, put some things out there. Brainstorming is a really good way to begin. Maybe brainstorming with yourself or somebody else. What are some ways forward from this stuck position? Innovate, create new perspectives and solutions. Say, for example, if you're stuck, tap into your sage and say, okay, so if I were to look at this from a different perspective, for example, if I were to look at this from my client's perspective, my employee's perspective, my boss's perspective, my husband's perspective, what would that look like? Okay, and then the other one's navigating a path, making sure that we're aligning with our own internal purpose and values. And then when we're ready to take that more virtuous path, just to activate and don't listen to the saboteurs anymore. So, boy, Steve, that sounds easy. So there's a way of getting to the point where it's easier and easier. It's like going to the gym. The first time you go to the gym, if you haven't, or if you maybe in a New Year's resolutions, I'm going to go work out. I'm going to work out 3 times a week. First couple of days, it hurts. It's work. You're not used to it. But then after a while, you keep going. You build a routine. You build a habit. It becomes easy. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about small exercises, call them PQ reps, for positive intelligence reps. And what they do is they help us shift from saboteur to sage. Okay, so we're going to do a little experience right now. What I'd like you all to do is I'd like you to sort of close your eyes. It's going to take 2 minutes. Close your eyes. Just listen to my voice. Taking a deep breath. Hold it. Exhale. If you're not taking another one, go ahead. I invite you to do that. Just relax your breathing. Now with your eyes closed, feet flat on the floor, I'd like you to feel where you're making contact with the floor with your feet. Sense your toes. You sort of go around your feet and feel each one of your different toes and count how many toes you can actually feel. Really focusing on feeling each individual toe as you go around. Once you've done that, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to bring a fingertip and thumb together and rub them together with such attention that you can feel the individual ridges on each one of them. Feel the ridges, nice soft touching of their fingertips and thumb to feel the ridges that are there. Really focus on that. Now what I'd like you to do is to take all of the fingertips of one hand, put them against the fingertips and palm of the other hand, and rub them very gently and feel all of the sensations. Notice all of the little intricacies and all the sensations that are coming on each side. The hand that's being rubbed and the fingertips of the other hand. You can shift and do that the other way as well, the other hand. And now place your hands on your stomach and just feel as you breathe in and out in a nice relaxed way. Feel your stomach rise and fall. When you're ready, I invite you to open your eyes and take some notes if you'd like. Think about what it was like, how you feel. Have gone through those 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, that experience. So what we just did there, the PQ reps, and using 2 minutes is a good amount of time to do it with. And we have longer possibilities, and some meditation allows us to go longer as well. It really changes our mindset. Okay, and it has a tendency to take us from this, like I said, the amygdala hijack over into more of a saboteur perspective, into a sage perspective. So what I want to leave you with here, I want to leave you with that it's a real simple operating system. If you're feeling negative emotions, stop. You're in saboteur mode. Remember, hand on the burner. How long do you want to keep it there? So stop. Do some PQ reps. One that I really, really love is really easy to do. Nobody really needs to notice and see it. It's just rubbing your finger and your thumbs together. You can do it in a meeting easily. Just put it there and just focus for a moment on that, and take your mind away from the negative emotion that was happening. Then assume the sage perspective that every problem can be converted into a gift and an opportunity. Okay, something bad happened, challenging situation. What's the gift in that? And then generate positive ways forward using call them again the sage powers, but it's empathy, curiosity, creativity, calm, clear-headed action. So with that, when we think about self-management, using the positive intelligence, the mental resilience approach to self-management is something we can all put into practice immediately. There's a quote that I love from Rumi. It's like, yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, so I am changing myself. If we think about it, what we can really impact is how we respond, because we are in control of how we respond, how we interpret, because that we are in control of how we interpret, and what we do, because we are in control of what we do. So how do you make it stick? Okay, it's really personal and requires intention. It's not one of those things, yeah, I'm going to do it, and then I forget about it. It'll never happen. So what I'd like us to do is to sort of take a few moments to think about, what do you want to change? What do you really want to change? What do you really want? And then what does that future state look like? Sort of feel it. Really visualize what it is that you want, what it will be like once you have it, once you've achieved it. What does it feel like throughout your body, in your mind, in other parts of your body? What is it like? And then what about that? Answer the question, what about that is important to you? And then write down a couple of lists of what are the 3 things that you'll do differently to achieve this. What are you going to say yes to? What are you going to say no to? What are you going to do more of? What are you going to do less of? But be intentional and write it down. And you can put together, I've got a little table down here at the bottom of the slide that you can use as a draft to just collect it and put it together. Just write it down and then look at it. Keep it around. If you want to keep it around, put it on a board, you can do that. What's ever going to work for you. And then what kind of accountability support will help you? Is it the piece of paper on the board? Is it a reminder in your phone? What is going to help you continue and stay intentional about making the change that you want to achieve what you really want? So that's all for the shortened version. In the longer version, we're going to dive into other elements of emotional intelligence. But hey, let's keep the conversation going. Feel free to reach out. Like I said, I left Disney at the end of last year. I coach executives and teams to help them achieve their full potential. Feel free to reach out if you'd like. If you just want to have a conversation, you can reach me on LinkedIn. You can drop me a line at my email address, or you can check out, there's some free resources available on my website, bouchongmedia.com. You can go there, use those resources, and see if they help you think things through, think things differently. Thank you once again. I hope you enjoy the summit and wish you really well. Bye.